distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen.
We'd like to welcome everyone to the BK History Club. We meet here every
other.
You got it in?
Yeah, every other.
We meet here every other Thursday.
Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday. In honor of Bill Mackey Jr., Amos Wilson, El-Haj Malik Al-Shabazz, the late great attorney at law, Alternates Maddox, the BK Mackey's member, Brother Assad, Jamil Alameen, Louis Ray Rivera, Minister Khalid, Brother Gil Noble, Dr. Bennett, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, Renoko Rashidi, and all the historians, all the individuals that gave up fame and fortune, that burned the midnight oil to bring the truth about history for African people. They could have took the money, but they didn't take the money. I remember they offered El-Haj Malik Al-Shabazz, Malcolm X, at that time in history, almost $500,000 for him to go the other way. And he was so strong, he did not take the money, but a whole lot of individuals did. So we meet to try our best to keep some kind of history growing. So give yourself a great big hand for the Zoom audience that then came down to support the Mackey's group, and for the people that's here, give yourself a great big hand for coming out and supporting us, because we still have to work. So we're going to turn the camera over to the Amos collection. And these books are from African World Info Systems to help Brother Sababu to continue the work of Amos Wilson. We have Blueprint for Black Power, Amos Classic, The Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat Toward a Reclamation of the African Mind. And we have to reprogram our minds. Amos's classic, Black on Black Violence, The Psychodynamic of Black Self-Annihilation in Service of White Domination. And whether we know it or not, as an African people, we are still controlled in some form or fashion by the white man. We are still dominated. They are able to manipulate us. They are able to start wars. They are able to turn us against each other. And Amos talks about it. Crips and Bloods, gangs that started out to help the community, wind up ending up going against each other and causing massive death and destruction. So they continue to oppress us. So Amos's classic, Black on Black, The Falsification of African Consciousness, Issues of Manhood in Black and White. And that's a strong book, because we have a lot of issues. Awakening the Natural Genius of Black Children, African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order, and you hear a lot of things about the New World Order, even in New York. A new era. A new era. Dr. Clark once said the New World Order was when they brought Africans across the European slave trade. That was a New World Order, because they named America the New World. Louis Ray Rivera classic, Jazz in Jail, and S.K. Damiana, Distorted Truths, the Bastardization of African Cosmology. And I never want to forget my good friend, Louis Ray. And Louis Ray He would come down to the Professor Mackey's group when Mackey left us, and he would speak. And Brother Hassar, Brother Colvin, Brother Calvin, we would be here and he would speak, and he would talk for hours. And he lived right on Jefferson Avenue. And he would talk. And we would walk home, and he only lived an hour and a half. He only lived up the block, Jefferson Avenue. And after he would speak down here, me and Calvin and Brother Assad, we would walk him home, and he would talk for another hour and a half. So I never want to forget Louis Ray, come out of Marcy Project, knew all my family. Fierce young man. So this book, Jazz in Jail, I always mention Louis Ray. So I have some books. These books is for the listening audience to buy, to do your research, because they're never going to get rid of books. I don't care what nobody says. If they get rid of a book, you start your own book club. Talking about the president banning books. And you get your own. So we have some books. In honor of Dr. Ben, Black Man of the Now, Dr. Bland, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima. In this book, Black Man of the Nile and His Family, Dr. Ben goes into the hieroglyphics in our culture, in the land of the black. How Akbulan was formed, how they built the pyramids, the great statues, everything. Dr. Ben went beyond the call of duty. The naming of Akbulan before they named it Africa. In this book, Black Man of the Nile, he goes into the pyramids, which the Arabs are trying to change. They're trying to redo the history, and the European. Everybody's trying to redo. And they built those pyramids and those civilizations without a mistake. And these folks are still trying. They're going to always try. But the truth is always going to be there, and those warriors that built that system, in those great dynasties, they know. And they knew this was going to happen. So it's still there. So that's in honor of Dr. Ben. We also have Chancellor Williams, The Destruction of Black Civilization. And Chancellor Williams gets into all the mistakes we made as an African people. He talks about the Arab slave trade. He talks about the armies, 20,000, 30,000 strong. Great issues of a race from 45 BC to 2000 AD. We want to thank Chancellor Williams. And they have a program, if you could go into the old Gil Noble archives, and they had an interview with Chancellor Williams, and he talks about the meeting that they had with organized crime and the government when they flooded the black communities with 50-cent cap drugs because they had to stop one of the most powerful movements. And they brought it into the community. And he tells you exactly how they brought it in, how they distributed it, who played a part in it. So Chancellor Williams talks about all the mistakes we made and how they conquered us. But we had gallant armies, 30,000 strong. So we want to thank Chancellor Williams. Also, African slavery in Latin America and the Caribbean. Slavery did not just happen in America. So when you talk about reparations, you have to go global, because they dropped us off all over the place. Everywhere, the European slave trade. not the transatlantic slave trade, the European slave trade. So if you get on board from where you came from, instead of coming to the Americas and going against the Africans that they dropped here and bringing it to a global perspective, and stop going against the people that's here, maybe we could get something done. But they pay people to go against a movement. They pay individuals to say, no, that's not what it is. Because they don't want to pay, but all other races got some money. They got some kind of compensation for the atrocities that happened to them. I want to thank the African Echoes family. African or American, Black identity and political activism in New York City, 1748 to 1861. Those times in history is not being brought up. So in this book, they have a lot of writing. See, you have no space on the pages. Leslie M. Alexander has no space on the pages. Every part of this page is used up. So the African Echoes family would trust Graham for mentioning this book. Excellent. Leslie M. Alexander. Nzinga of Angola, African warrior queen. Every black woman should read the fierceness of Queen Nzinga and see how she fought the Portuguese. How she gallantly, they didn't even want her to sit down. And the African brothers that was with her made their own bench so she could sit down and negotiate with them vicious Portuguese. And if you read this book, not too many of the brothers will be able to pull the wool over you, because you'll be fierce with information. Without sanctuary, the hangings in Mississippi, the hangings in Lynchburg, Virginia, the hangings all over the place. What they did in the South, throwing blacks in hot boiling sugar and boiling them to death, hanging from the trees, hanging in the woods. So when you have these reparation sessions, how can you sit up there and go against it and don't have this book without sanctuary? How can you do it? What's the problem? And California signed the bill and then said, we don't have the money to pay. So why did you sign the bill? It's total nonsense. You don't have this book. But all the other races got money where they put you in a boiling hot, scalding, boiling tub of water. Dope Incorporated, the book that drove Kissinger crazy. And everywhere you look now, even President Trump done low-graded the weed. But Lyndon LaRouche talks about Dope Incorporated, the Chinese opium drug wars, where they got the Chinese strung out. They got us strung out. Now they got the medical marijuana. Everybody is buying it. Black, white, all kind of people. And the Arabs are selling it. White folks are selling it. Every store, they got a dispenser all up and down Fulton Street. Everybody is smoking this weed. And this is some new stuff. You used to be hungry. You used to smoke it and start laughing at everything moving and start looking for something to eat. And they ain't smiling and they not looking for nothing to eat. So Dope Incorporated is an excellent book. And funny, they got a Chinese in the opium den in the 19th century. And they also have a book called Low Life, where it tells you about the Chinese opium dens. So when you talk about black folks smoking crack, he got a pipe in his hand. And they talk about crack and black folks. So this is an excellent book, Dope Incorporated. Get it and do your research. In honor of Cynthia McKinney, When China Sneezes, From the Corona Lockdown to Global Political Economic Crisis, in her other book, S-Hole Countries, How the U.S. Create S-Hole Countries. So when you got President Trump talking about place as an S-Hole country, they have a book where the United States creates S-Hole countries. But Cynthia McKinney, When China Sneezes, From the Corona Lockdown, she basically states that they have finally came up with something that's taking us out, and we're not even aware of it. That's kicking in the back. So this book gets Cynthia McKinney's book. And she's the only person that cared about the people of Georgia. Them phony balonies down in Georgia don't care nothing about them people. They even got one of them parading the wife around like it's, oh my God. Disgusting. Cynthia McKinney, in my opinion, was the only one that cared about the people of Georgia. And she was run out by them same folks on orders. At one time, City College was free. City College and the Jewish poor. In some kind of way in New York, with this new era, even from the old era, the old people that just left. You never heard anything about poor people. You don't hear nothing about poor people. Poor people that's been struggling in New York for the longest. They don't even mention their name. Yeah, Doc. Doc. Hello, Doc. So they didn't even mention poor. Dirt. A social history as seen through the use and abuse of dirt. Terrence McLaughlin. From the man. I think it's starting to mess up. If you want to see how Europeans lived, the creation of the umbrella. The umbrella was not created to stop rain. It was created when they threw the waste because they had no sewer system in Europe. And they threw the waste out of the window, so they would walk with an umbrella so they wouldn't get hit in the head with the waste. Also, I forgot to mention, in honor of the United African Movement and Leola Maddox, who came to the UAM and ate her dinner in the UAM. We never want to forget Leola and Alton, because she believed in bringing people together. She believed in having the live lectures, and we believe in it here at the BK History Club, where people come together and have a live lecture. Never want to forget Miss Leola Maddox, and that's why I still have the United African Movement. And never want to forget Alton. He saved a lot of people. You got one individual running around here, don't want to mention his name, and he did so much for him. So we never want to forget Leola Maddox and the United African Movement. In honor, Ayo Kamati, and the irritated genie, his 1-2 punch, Jews are the problem and the psychology of the Jew. Irritated genie wrote these books, and it's excellent. So we want to thank Ayo Kamati and this 1-2 punch in his book, Born the Horizon. Doc just called me to see where he at. He's walking down. I found this book, Andrew Carnegie Hitchcock, The Secret History of Jewish World Domination, Synagogues of Satan. Doc? So this is an excellent book right here. You can always find these books. Whitney Webb, One Nation Under Blackmail. The Soviet Union between intelligence, Doc? The Soviet Union between intelligence and organized crime that gave the rise to Jeffrey Epstein. And Whitney Webb is not the only one. There's some people that came before Whitney Webb. But this 1-2 punch could give you a nice introduction on what's going on with the files and everybody asking, but let me explain something to you. Everybody went to that party. Blacks, whites, everybody was at that party. And the regular people that's asking for this files couldn't even get next to the island. They wouldn't let you get no place near it because your money wasn't long enough. So you better be careful because all of them was at the freak party. All of them was hanging out. And you'd be surprised who was hanging out in there. The gangs of New York. Herbert Adley, An Informed History of the Underworld. You think the Bloods and the Crips is something else. Well, you read this book, The Gangs of New York, and it talks about the formation, the Dead Robins, the Bowery Boys, and over 400 roving gangs in New York. Yeah, Doc? You on your way?
Yeah, I'm about 10 minutes from you.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, so that was Doc is on his way. But the Gangs of New York, please get this book. And it tells you about the 5 points. The 5 points is this area around City Hall. One of the most notorious slums. And that's where everybody came from, the selling of the slaves in the South Street Seaport. And Africans was there. But they had the Bloods and the Crips ain't got nothing on them. Got nothing on them gangs. The Unspoken Alliance, Israel's secret relationship with apartheid South Africa. Whether you know it or not, Israel and them Jews still control South Africa. And this book gets into that. Empire They Own, How the Jews Invented Hollywood by Neil Gerbler. Harry Cohen, William Fox, Carl Lamere, Louis B. Mayer, Jack and Harry Warner, Adolf Zukov, the people that created Hollywood. How they distributed the movies. How they took control of the movie theaters. How they created events that did not happen, as Dr. Clark says. They did not happen. How they created lifestyles of the people. It was a creation, and they did not like Neil Gerbler. And at one time, Hollywood was on the brink of bankruptcy. And you know who saved them? Black people. But they also destroyed our image with the black exploitation movies. They destroyed our image with Birth of a Nation. And they continue to destroy our image. They do it every day. Got us dressing up like all kind of so-and-so. And every once in a while they get somebody and put a positive movie on. But they disrespect us every day. So read about them Hollywood big boys and how they formed this. Get this book, and anybody that's getting into the music industry, the theater industry, is supposed to read this book because they are going to continue to disrespect us. And we're going to participate in it. How the Jews invented. It was an invention. The projector was used as a surveillance, and they allowed them to make movies. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the baddest dudes out. King George, I call him. The life and time and trading secrets of the world's greatest investor. And inside the secret network of George Soros. If you want to see what's going on today with all this nonsense, he got everybody on his payroll. He got all them blacks on his payroll. The ones that sit around and jump in our face talking all that stuff, he's paying them. But he's a bad man. And if you want to read about an individual, as Professor Mackey would say, buy the book. Dr. Clark and Mackey and Doc Ben, they had thousands of books by white authors. By white authors. So read about George Soros and Michael Bloomberg. How they're able to buy us and still give us a little bit of money. They buy us like they ran the slave trade. The manufacturing of a president, the CIA insertion of Barack Hussein Obama, and everybody running around, he's on still trying to come back. No, all CIA. And this is Wayne Mansfield, and they also have another book. Total fraud.
Can you put the name, not to cut your bill, but could you please put the name of that book in the chat, because I may have missed it.
Okay, we get it.
I saw you talking about. Just put the name in the chat, or I can type it in there for you if you like. What's the name of it?
Yeah, we get it. I'll get it. Don't worry. We get with you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Tyreen Wright, The Making of a Pan-Africanist. Everybody is under the impression that Booker T. Washington was this crumb bum. Tyreen Wright has something different. Booker T. Washington was a bad dude. And she has her lectures on the Mackey's group. So, The Making of a Pan-African, Booker T. Washington. Okay, one of the things Professor Mackey always talked about, Dr. Ben and all the great historians, they always had books. When you wanted to hear about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings and all the slaves that they had in the founding fathers. So in this day and time, everybody talking about Donald Trump. And they need to go to Trump rehab. I just found this book, The Trumps, 3 Generations That Built an Empire. And Dr. Lewis always says how the father came here with rags, 1 suitcase and a pair of drawers. And if you ever look at the Godfather movie or the Gangs of New York, where the people came over, they had nothing. And they sprayed them down with lice. They sprayed them so the lice could get off them. You think you're the only ones that was packed in ships? When you want to read about somebody, good, bad, or indifferent, you get the books and read on the individual. Are there any books on great black folks that came here and built dynasties? Are there any books written on great black folks that came to America in chains and built dynasties and fought? Robert Johnson sold BET. So you can say what you want to say about Trump. Read the books. Neither safe nor effective, the effective evidence against the CO-19. Robert Kennedy, and I'm reading this book, The Medical Pharmaceutical Killing Machine. This person, Mark Sloan, wrote a book, Crimes, Conspiracy, and the Death of My Mother, with the big C. Capitalism on a Ventilator, all the money that was made on ventilators. They had no factory in America that made ventilators. in honor of our good friend, Dr. Scott Whitaker, medicine, out of Decatur, Georgia. Get his book, Bad Guy. The cause and solution to disease and malnutrition to the medical sins that are killing the world. And the blockbuster, The Real Anthony Fauci. The information in this book is not just CO. We're going all the way back to AIDS. And on the millions of people, my loved ones, that probably could have been saved. It's in this book on what this man did. Not just the CO-19, but the whole cabal. So you get those books, Rand Paul, The Deception, The Great Cover-Up, Down the Rabbit Hole. I've been going to so many funerals, I got to go to another one of a friend that used to be good friends with my sister. I've been going to so many funerals since 2019. But we want to thank Edward Down, who was an analyst for BlackRock. And he wrote this book, Causes Unknown, The Epidemic of Sudden Death Syndrome. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 2019, 20, and he got the young athletes dropping, the football players. And Wall Street wanted to find out how everybody that was paying their premiums, getting along, struggling, and then after a certain period, 2019, a total disaster happened. And they was wondering how all of a sudden they paying out so much money. Well, Edward Down wrote a book on it. It's on Amazon. The Ultimate Vaccine Timeline. I want to thank Children's Health Defense, Kennedy, a fact-packed history of vaccines and their makers from the Flexner Report. 2 Jewish people that started Pfizer. The Rockefellers who removed herbs and went to pills and surgeries. So this is a timeline of vaccines from the 1700s, the 1800s, all the way to the present. All the companies, the ones that make it. And this is a blockbuster. I want to thank Naomi Wolf, Amy Kelly, Children's Health Defense, Stephen Brannon, Crimes Against Humanity, the Pfizer papers. And it talks about what happened to the blood, what happens to the cells, what happens to an individual, the tainted blood. And Pfizer fought hard, but they made him do it through the Freedom of Information Act. And I don't know how Big Pharma and Moderna stopped that book, the Moderna papers. But they was able to stop publication of the Moderna papers, and I'm hoping that they can get that book out so the public has to know what happened. Wow. What happened? Another funeral I'm going to. And Cynthia McKinney stated, they may have finally came up with something, and nobody's connecting the dots. And I'll never forget when our great friend Doc did a lecture and they banned it. He talked about it years ago. So I have some current events. These are programmed.
Which stop? Which stop?
Dr. Lewis. Sorry, Lady B. We got some community events and programs you can get on. Keisha, Tad, Sister Mama, Sister Brooke, Thorough Black Talk. And they have the other, what's that foundation, the guy with the reparations, what's it called?
Foundation.
No, the other gentleman with the, where they're going against for reparations. If anybody's on, they can give me the guy's name. He's on the show, but
Is he from DC? Is he from DC? Because I know someone named
No, he comes on, what's his name?
Doing Recovery Act.
He comes on.
He doesn't call it reparations.
He comes on Thorough Black Talk.
Recovery Act.
Yeah, he comes on Thorough Black Talk with Tad, Keisha, and Ashe, and Brother Blacksmith. I forgot his name on the tip of my tongue, but Thorough Black Talk comes on YouTube tomorrow, every Thursday at 8 o'clock. And the Freemen's Bureau. They got the brother from the Freemen's Bureau, and they really go into the rallies, and Sister Brooke and Tad and Keisha and all of them, they getting into it with the FBAs and the people that's trying to stop this, that don't want to talk about reparations from where they came, but they come to America and want to have their 2 cents and something, so they're really putting it on. Also, Thorough Black Talk. Also, Blog Talk Radio. Sister Empress Chi, Brother Lumumba, El Pollinator. That comes on every Saturday at 10:30. And they stream live. And there's a call-in. So that's Blog Talk Radio with Sister Empress. Oh, come on.
I don't know. Craig, you still there?
Well, it comes on and it comes off, so I gotta
you there.
I got to call as soon as I get off.
Yeah, we lost.
As soon as I get off, I got it. As soon as I get off. Yeah, as soon as I get off.
You know, when you get high in frequency, when your frequency is getting really hot on any of these digital platforms, you either drop or signals drop and just things start happening. So you really hitting, so you coming with fire right now. That's
okay, so also, Sister Empress comes on 10:30, and her and Brother Lumumba and our Philadelphia connection, they come on all through the week. So they're really kicking it, and they're talking about the missing young girls that's being taken off the street in Philly, in New York, in Georgia, all over, and nobody seems to be talking about these young girls that are being removed, and their families do not know where they at. Just being removed. And you want to open up the files and see what's going on. Also, Ayo Kamati, Sankofa Revolutionary Radio. That comes on every Monday at 10 o'clock. So you have from 9 to 10, Dr. Haru. Sankofa Revolutionary Radio with Brother Anthony Mohammed. And Dr. Haru has a lot of excellent stuff that he's talking about with health. He has great books, supplements. But not only after he comes on, you can call in with any ailment. They give you another blockbuster. Ayo Kamati comes on from 10 to 11. And he's running for office in Baltimore. So we have Ayo running for office in Baltimore, and he just came back from Africa. So that's excellent, Brother Anthony Mohammed. They also have a bunch of programs on Sankofa Revolutionary Radio. Our blockbuster friend out of Baltimore, Brother Darren Muhammad, State of the City. That comes on every Saturday at 12 o'clock. And he also comes on Wednesday and Thursday sometime. He might come on today, he might come on tomorrow. But Darren Muhammad, State of the City, we want to give a big up. And his brother is also running for office down in Baltimore. So we got State of the City, Darren Muhammad, and his brother Kenny. Brother Kenny Ebron is running for office along with Ayo Kamati in Baltimore. So people in Baltimore, they're getting ready to redo you down there, so you better listen to Brother Darren. Also, every Tuesday at 7 o'clock, Dr. Aleem and Your Immunity Project. Dr. Aleem is coming up with some excellent information. And Califani Radio, so we want to give Dr. Aleem. Our Friday Connection, African Echoes, with Brother Truss Graham. That's a study group that comes out of Newark, New Jersey. Truss is the moderator of that group. And they're doing the psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat toward a reclamation of the African mind. And then Brother Truss and Brother True in the Know Thyself study group give you a blockbuster Saturday program, 1:30, and they're doing the destruction of black civilization with Chancellor Williams. So Trust is going to give 2 lectures, Friday night and Saturday, and he's going to be the keynote. He always has the whole month of February for Black History Month, and he's going to be getting into the historical context of the Willie Lynch letter. Also, Semotap organization, and they fight against these movie critics that just disrespects us. So we got a major victory with them removing the Netflix total disrespect of black folks with that cartoon. So Hollywood just tears us up. So we want to thank Semotap organization. So the UNIA, Raymond Dugal and Brother Michael Duncan, and they trying to reprogram the African mind, reprogram, myself included. So they have the store, 13205 Merritt Boulevard, and it's called The Rock. It's basically a mini Jetros. And when you go in there and spend your money, they got excellent products, all kind of health stuff, fish, beans, everything. And it's at 13205 Merritt Boulevard, inside of Burnap Street, right across from the Home Depot on Merritt Boulevard. We want to thank the UNIA and they fierce of trying to reprogram the African mind, to get us for race first. Of course, as the book says, we're still dominated by white folks. So UNIA is doing an excellent job of trying to reprogram us. So we want to thank the UNIA, and it's a hard struggle. So ladies and gentlemen, that's your Doc? Okay, Doc is doing a little getting ready. Lady V, give it to me, baby. Matter of fact, come and sit by. Come and sit down and announce it. We got our good friend Lady V.
Peace, love, and light. I wanted to inform everyone about Pinnacle. They formed a union because they are taking the buildings, the slum landlords. I don't know if anyone saw this incident where a Jewish male decided that he was going to break into someone's house with a crowbar. So, you know, the deed theft is real.
They're stealing houses.
Right. So now there are 90-something buildings in New York City that they have decided, since they formed a union, to retaliate after Maldani mentioned 25 Clarkson Avenue. The next day, he put on the 6th that he intends to sell the buildings to the top 4 slumlords in New York City. 90-something buildings, including from here to California. They have more buildings that these owners. So now that they've formed a union, they plan on sending their thugs to come in to apartments and houses to take what they feel, you know, they all want to pretend to be gangsters.
Whenever you're ready, Doc.
Tomorrow, Summit Headquarters, 1350 6th Avenue, New York, New York, 119 at 3:45 p.m. People will be out protesting because, you know, throwing people out in the winter used to be illegal. Now everything is game. And we better not play checkers while they playing chess. Stand your ground, that's what I suggest. 1350 6th Avenue, Manhattan, New York, tomorrow.
If you're driving, you got to pay to get in. So remember, family, anybody that owns a building out there, anybody that owns a building, you go into the IRS and you check the deed of the building. It's free. You could go into the city.
Actors.
What is it called?
Actors.
Actors, and you could check. And once you pull up the block and lock, the whole history of your building will come up, and you do that every month, and you will see if anything been changed. and you do not listen to these phony balonies, and sometime our folks have a habit of listening to individuals, and some of them look like us.
That's right.
They're into real estate and they look like us. And they will sell you a bill of goods, and after you sign your name or let them talk you out of it, you are dead meat. So it's just funny that what's getting ready to happen here, it's no new era. It's the same era, it's just a different face. It's just a different... hold up.
I'm hearing a lot.
Hold up.
I'm trying to hold my peace. But
No.
Done at the end, because I do.
Hold up.
Wait, I don't know your format.
No. Hello, be quiet.
In this zone.
Yeah, be quiet. Don't worry. This is just a lecture, and this is just a community, what we're talking about. Announcements. So don't really sweat on what's being said. It's
Okay,
just,
I'll mute.
it's just information that we're talking about. Whenever you're ready, Doc. It's just basic information
And they'll be allowed to speak.
for the community, and when we have a question and answer, when Doc is ready to come on, you can speak and say what you want to say.
Hold your thoughts.
So hold your thoughts, and then that's it. So ladies and gentlemen, ready, Doc?
They can Google Pinnacle and they'll see red dots come up.
So
those are the ones they're in bankruptcy for. So you may be paying your bill and they didn't pay theirs.
It's
So some people like, oh, I went to pay my light bill.
it's
and
a new
someone-
era
That's
coming
them
in,
stealing ours.
but it's not a new era. It's just a different face. It's not a new era. It's a different face.
Exactly.
It's the same game.
That's why.
And don't you think for 1 minute that anything's gonna change on who controls real estate in this city.
And that's what ultimately.
You have to be able to protect what you have. And if you don't have the information to protect what you have, anything can happen.
Black squares have generational wealth.
Remember
So-
when Alton Maddox exposed that Leona Helms had owned his building? So when she died, they came along trying to collect the things that didn't belong to them.
So that's one of the reasons why they call it real estate, because it is real.
That's right.
It's very real and it's very profitable. And it's very much shark infested. So that's what's going on. So ladies and gentlemen, when you look at what's going on, it's nothing new. And if anybody thinks something new is gonna happen, they don't even mention poor people no more. They don't even mention poor people no more. They don't even mention the African American who've been here through the muck and the mire. We've not even mentioned, but we have people that sit up there and make you think they're looking out for you. They are not looking out for you. And with this phenomenon that just happened, it's the United States that did it.
Snakes.
The president works for the United States. It's the United States. And that's what they're not saying. The president works for the United States. Corporation.
Business.
So don't you think everybody ain't involved. So try to get these books, understand what's going on, get ready, because New York is definitely changing. And it's not changing for the people that's been here through the thick and thin.
That's right.
It's changing for the newbies, I call them. And anytime you want to read about somebody, you get the book. You want to read about Trump, you get all the books and read about Trump. You want to read about Soros, you get all the books and you read about Soros. But don't you think for 1 minute they control all these politicians.
Wait and see what my dad.
Alton used to tell us 770 Eastern Parkway controls them all.
Is that the?
So that's why we say rest in peace with Alton.
Right.
All of our lectures of the BK History Club, you can go on BK History Club and you can view all the lectures, and you can come down and do them, and you can talk to the speakers, Dr. Lewis and all the people we have, and ask them any question you have. So in 2026, we're going to try our best to keep everything going. If you want to come down and do a lecture, you just give me a call. So Dr. Lewis is part 3 on the history of America and Europe and its threat to humanity for the past 500 years. The killings, the bombings, and you just saw it. America on the move. War is a racket. It's one of the biggest money makers out. And if you go through Dr. Lewis's past lectures, Smedley Butler, we went into this place for the oil. We took this, we took that. They gangsters. So ladies and gentlemen, Doc says he's ready. I want you to give a great big hand. Africans helping Africans. And Dr. Lewis was part 3, coming with part 4 after this. Give him a great big hand, Dr. Arthur Lewis.
Good evening, African community, Brooklyn, in New York, in the United States, Africa, globally. As usual, I just have to express my appreciation to Brother Rayway, his family, and his crew of Mackey Student 3 for keeping the lecture series and the informational basis ongoing. A young brother who's just beginning to do lectures and speak on what he called Pan-Africanism. He gave me a call the other day, and he said that he's been lecturing, and he's been going around and universities, and he's going around to the churches and everything. And then he said the nature of the call was because he was getting short on money. I said, now you see what it is to be a Pan-Africanist in the United States, like the rest of our ancestors who preceded us and who came before you to pass on information. Pan-Africanism means you must take the money out of your pocket. So I said, did you expect to be able to go on YouTube and make a channel and speak on Pan-Africanism? And then you want to know why you have to finance it? Now, we have organizations that do help finance individual lectures and series, but he's learning now, like Dr. Ben Clark, all of our elders, Shashi McIntyre, they all made tremendous sacrifices in terms of spending their own money, in terms of being away from the family, and then also in terms of committing time and committing exposure to your enemy. So I said, you know, now you see that part of Pan-Africanism. And I said to him, when you see organizations out here, people are lecturing and people who are trying to bring information, for most of the part, these are dedicated individuals, because there's no place you can go in the United States as an African person to get money. So I want to lecture here and I want to lecture here. They don't want it. That's number one. So I have to give all of those who keep the lecture series going credit. The other thing is, I indicated to the young brother that we are all monitored, watched, listened to. And one of the ways that you know that is because you have a small group here, Mackey's 2 to 3. And Ray can tell you on a number of speakers that have presented different subjects. The organization, Mackey's 2 to 3, gets feedback from different monitoring organizations and from the government objecting to some of the lectures that we do here, all of us. So you say, well, we're down in many instances to a lecture series where you might have 10, 15, 20 people. And you say you think you're insignificant, but why is it that whoever monitors, whoever they want to monitor, why would they come to bring to the attention of Brother Ray and others certain material that is spoken is objectionable? Or they take it off. You say, what are they afraid of? When you, as a group of people who run, as the World Economic Forum says, it's the World Economic Forum, and you look it up on the internet and it says the World Economic Forum, it says it's the world, it's economic in the forum. And then they tell you that the World Economic Forum was started by an individual. And that individual happened to be a Swiss German. And they tell you when you look on the internet and other ways, the way they define themselves as World Economic Forum is made up of the elites of the white countries. They tell you the World Economic Forum is a private NGO made up of the highest ranking people, the elites who run the domestic and the foreign policy of certain sets of countries. And they tell you, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, UK, France, Germany. And you say, that's the list of the European countries who came out of Europe in the past 200 or 300 years to go around the world for two purposes. To go into countries or areas, exterminate the population, and take the natural resources. Wow. That is the history in the last at least 200 or 300 years. And they concentrate on Southern Europe. Oh, the Portuguese came out first, then followed by the Spanish, and then the Dutch, and then the French, and then the UK or Britain. The successive exit of these groups of people in the last 200 or 300 years, and you go any place around the world, they kill tens of millions of indigenous people here in the United States, Central and South America, tens of millions in Africa. The Congo, they say, killed 10 million. So you can extrapolate whatever you want, but you have to understand that is who you're dealing with when you are looking at the globe. And if you want to narrow it down to us living in the United States of America, who runs the United States of America? Human beings. They're almost exclusively males. They're almost exclusively who you call white. And rich. The religion doesn't make a difference. Jewish, Christian, Muslim. Dr. Ben tells you all of those religions came right out of Africa. It's all the same. And then when you say white, what do you mean white?
Break it down.
As I said before, when I was in the bus terminal with my granddaughter, and I asked her, what was the color of that person? What was the color of this individual? It was a very dark-skinned male. She said, he's black. I said, what's the color of that person? She said, she's white. Now I said, is he really black, as you know? He said, no. And then she modified. She's 10 years old, 9 to 10 years old. She modified, she made a correction. to call a dark-skinned person, she called him an African rather than black. And I said, all of these people in here that you call white, what color are they? Pink. If you look at the human beings that live in the United States and they call themselves white, they all are some color variation of pink. There's no such white or black. So I'm defining the people who presently run the United States as human beings who came out of Europe 200 years ago, 150 years ago, and most of them are pink. They're not white. They're pink. So I don't make a distinction between whether he's called himself a Jew or he called himself a Christian. It doesn't make a difference. And if you go through Donald Trump's inauguration when he had it, and he said that black people or Negro people, I don't think he were, and Spanish people helped to get me here, and I'm going to repay them. You look around, 99.9% of people sitting at the big inauguration are who they call white. Where's all of them? The country's at close to 50% non-white. Okay, and I'm using the designation that the people of this country use, white and non-white. Based upon their definition of white and non-white, half of this country now is non-white. So if this country is at least 0.5% quote non-white, why is at your inauguration 99.9% of people who you designate as white? And half the country doesn't count. And he's going to do something for you. So for me, I don't make distinctions on Democrat, Republican, whatever it is. The information that I'm going to give you is like information that most of us come to give you, and you will be doing also. You pick up a topic that you feel is of interest and importance to the African community, you do your research on it, and you speak about it. So the people ask, well, how do you come up with the topic? The person who's speaking to you, him or her, they have a preference. And so that's where it comes from. I have a preference for certain things. The way I present is on written material. And many of the times, I don't finish the preparation until the night before or 2 days before, because I want to do as much as I can to make it as relevant as possible. Remind the world and whoever else is monitoring these lectures. The United States of America's population, by whoever says it, is 4% of the world's population. So what I'd like you to do is we're going to start you with this graphic as a foundation of what I'm going to speak on. When you have this sheet. And this sheet has two components to it. It's a schematic of different areas of the so-called world. Let me finish one other premise about the World Economic Forum. They say we are white men. They weren't white women. We are an organization of white men who are the ones who make the domestic and foreign policy of each of the countries: Canada, Australia, New Zealand, United States, Great Britain, or UK, Germany, and France. They're clear on it. And their goal is, they're the grand and the great-grand descendants of these white people who came here and exterminated the indigenous people and who enslaved us. So you're clear on who they are. They're clear. They don't want you to make sure you're clear. And they name themselves the World Economic Forum to give you impression. So they're saying that they get together and use all the resources to maintain the colonial slave system that the white countries have been able to impose on most of the non-white countries in the last 50 or 100 years. It's clear who the enemy is. Okay, here is a schematic. Here is the United States of America. There's a rectangular area called Mexico. There's another rectangular area called Canada. And arrows are connected. So we're going to center the United States is the center of this lecture. So to the north, what you call north, is Canada. To the south of it, it's called Mexico. Then off of one to your right is a rectangle called Europe. And over here, another type of rectangle you call China, Japan, and South Korea. And from this, you see Canada an arrow down. So Canada supplies the United States with oil. Mexico supplies the United States with oil. A line from Canada is drawn to Europe. A line is drawn to China, Japan, and South Korea. What it's supposed to represent is that there was a time, 40, 50, 60 years ago, the United States was getting most of the oil at dirt cheap from Canada. They were getting a lot of the oil dirt cheap from Mexico. It's called theft. And there's another country that the United States was getting the oil dirt cheap through theft. From, say, let's just say 15 years, 10 years ago, and go back 100 years. The Europeans were in what you call Asia, Saudi Arabia and Iran, stealing their oil, these Asian oil, that went to Great Britain. The United States was running their country on stolen oil that they stole from the indigenous people, because I don't know how many white people who came from Europe brought oil with them. So all the oil this country is using is either indigenous oil.
You're on mute.
Oil from Canada, oil from Mexico, and oil from Venezuela. That's where the United States has been getting most of the oil, stealing it virtually. Now, when we go through, you're going to see that Canada is now beginning to divert oil to sell it to Europeans and to sell it to Asians. So this country is going to get a lot less oil. Mexico, when we see, their oil is going to go to Mexico and to the Asians. In Venezuela, the United States hasn't been successful in stealing the oil. So I start here to preface what we're talking about. Oil is one of the most critical resources you must have, or you don't have a certain type of country. So the theme of it is the oil that the United States has been getting through theft and dirt cheap is from Canada, Mexico, and Venezuela. Venezuela's oil they're not getting, pretty much not getting, for different reasons we'll go into. The Mexicans are in the process of diverting a lot of the oil that used to come here, they divert it to Asia. And Canada is beginning to divert a lot of the oil that used to come here, they send it to the Europeans, and they're sending it to the Asians, for a number of reasons. In this chart here, on this side of the chart is just a brief explanation of the importance of oil. And it says oil. What does, when you dig it up from the ground, it's got different thicknesses, velocities, and different properties. But the oil that is used by countries, you needed oil for lighting, gasoline, automobiles, heating, industry, plastics, automotive, heavy oil, the heavy oil that Mexico, Canada, and Venezuela supply the United States mainly with heavy oil, the thick oil, and we'll go through that. Basically, that heavy oil, you know, it's like dough, let's say, versus a liquid, is very important. In this scheme here, took it right out, like most things that I present, I didn't create. I look through it, pick it up, I analyze it, put my spin on it, on what I want to emphasize like everybody else. So I'm not speaking as an expert. You look up and say, what is the daily consumption per barrel of the 10 countries in the world that uses oil? So if you say, what are the 10 countries that use most of the oil that is taken out of the ground and circulated? The United States of America is number 1, uses 20% of the world's production of oil, but they're only 2% of the world's population. Wait now, 2% or 3% of the world's population, and the United States is using 21% of the oil that is taken out. China uses 13%. India, fourth place. So the United States uses 20 million barrels a day, 21%. China uses 13 barrels a day, 13% of the world's oil. India uses 4 million barrels a day, 4%. Japan, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, South Korea, Canada, and Germany. So you say, why are you open up with this? Because the United States is using 20%. They're only 2% of the world's population. They're using 20% of the world's oil. That means a lot of countries are not getting access to using the oil. And some of the charts say that the United States military uses more oil, uses number 46 in total consumption. In other words, they say out of 190 countries, the U.S. military alone is number 46. So the United States needs this oil to run their military, and that means it deprives at least another 140 countries no access to oil. So when you look at Venezuela, I just wanted to bring that attention to you and to emphasize. If the United States, being only 2 to 4% of the world's oil, 4% of the population of the world, and they only were able to use 5% of the oil's wealth, oil that's dug up, and now 20%, you wouldn't have much of a military. You wouldn't have much of a truck convoy. So I wanted to let you see the importance of oil to the United States. And in connection to that, what is now happening are the 3 major sources that the United States used to get their oil from to run these military, to run trucks, buses, automobiles. So you ask yourself the question, is that one of the reasons why the United States is positioned to try to take the oil from Venezuela? I didn't say it was, but I'm looking at it and say, well, the United States got most of their oil almost free from Canada, Mexico, and Venezuela. And now they have lost Venezuela and Canada and Mexico are beginning to divert the production of their oil. So that might mean they're going to be, the government here might have looking forward to a shortage of oil. And if you don't have the oil, you got big trouble. we're going to talk about 3 countries: Venezuela, Mexico, and Canada. And the reason that I chose these 3 is because these are the 3 primary sources that has been keeping the United States running for the last 100 years. Oil, 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 and they don't pay for it like Smedley Butler. Okay, now, I'm going to read, you don't have any of this. I'm going to read some facts that I put together to produce a picture for you. First, it's Venezuela. So I'm going to jump around because there's too much material here. I just want you to hear this to get a concept and idea. Venezuela, January 3rd, 2026, there was I'm reporting to you what I picked up from different sources and what they put out. I wasn't there. But let's imagine if this is true, the concept. There was a missile attack at night on Venezuela by the United States government. Whatever they let out, because Trump, you know, he tells all the secrets. Whatever they let out, the United States hit the oil refinery, the President's Palace, the General Staff Office, 4 military bases, and they knocked out some of the electricity. Maybe they knocked the electricity out so that those people who came in to take Maduro and his wife out, what if you were in the darkness? And what if the people from the United States was coming in to get them, they had night vision? Is it a possibility? Is it a possibility that the United States being in Venezuela so long, you're inside the country, you're bribing people, you got your network, maybe some of the people gave the information to the United States about the ability. You listen to what I said. Maybe we speculate, so nobody going to say I, and all you co-conspirators are passing false information. We wouldn't want that. Then that means then that they'll make us liars like them. So, speculation. He said there was no air defense used. I don't know the relevance of that. President Maduro and his wife was kidnapped. Everything I'm reading to you, I got off the internet and other types of material, and I got it from the President of the United States. So I'm not passing on any, Dr. Lewis, I'm not passing on anything that I know for certain. I'm just putting this stuff in your mind. President Maduro and his wife was kidnapped by a U.S. force on January 3, 2026. And Trump said, oh, we killed plenty of people. We killed Cubans. Some of the last count is 100.
Which was his immigrants, yes.
So I'm only repeating here what's in the news and what the president says. We wouldn't want to doubt the president because he knows everything. President Donald Trump, he said, coming from the State Department and Trump, he said, the U.S. is going to run Venezuela. We're going to take their oil and all their natural sources for the United States because the Venezuelans stole it from us. We're going to, Trump said, we're going to appoint people from the United States to run the country of Venezuela. President Maduro is going to be brought in and tried by U.S. law. So this is, I wrote it here, but this come right off the news wire so that we're not passing bad information. He also said that Delcy Rodriguez, who's the vice president, was agreed to collaborate with the United States in letting the United States steal everything they want. Okay. So when you go flip through the day one, January 4, 2025, Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, came on international TV or whatever you call it, backed by Delcy Rodriguez, the Vice President, the Defense Minister, the National Defense Council, the Attorney General, the head of legislature and judicial. And this is what she said. I took it from the thing. This is from her mouth. Trump said she's going to work with us to give away all of Venezuela's stuff. She's the spokesman. President Maduro is still the president of Venezuela.
That's right.
She's the vice president and acting in that capacity until Maduro and his wife are returned.
That's right.
She stated that the military is stable and loyal. The population is stable and loyal. Venezuela's sovereignty is still intact. She says that the government of Venezuela and the people are not working with the United States to run Venezuela for the benefit of the United States. The military has been mobilized and national. U.S. violate international law, and Venezuela is fully operational. So the question we're going to wind down here that I want you to consider: if Venezuela is a country in South America, twice the size of California, 3 times the size of I can't think of that southern with all the oil. Texas.
That's right.
30 million people.
In France.
Yeah, in the country is mountainous, it's forest. They say 150,000 men in the army. Another 2 million under arms as a militia, and the backup of 4 million. Now, this is the numbers that I pick up from what I hear. And is this one of the reasons why the United States has put they call a strike group? Aircraft carriers, submarines, destroyers, you post them, and they've been sitting off of the Venezuelan coast for the last 4 months. If you're going to run the country, and the country is totally prepared for you. They got 250,000 people waiting for you.
That's right.
How are you going to run a country if you have 15,000, 20,000 combat troops sitting there, and you got 500,000 troops? Does it sound right? So I'm not making any judgment. I'm just putting these facts out to you for those who haven't been following. And you asked the question. The U.S. is going to run a country where the entire government says it's intact. We got enough troops here, and we got enough. You're not going to run the country. So Trump said she better watch out. She may get something worse. Killing off the leaders never works. Okay, now, I make the analogy, as we wind down on Venezuela, I make the analogy. If by any chance there was a massive earthquake in Washington, D.C., the White House and everybody there was lost. All the Congress in those big houses, they were lost. Probably be way better off. And the Pentagon was totally destroyed. Do you think that 350 million people who live in the United States is going to collapse because you lost these groups of people? The point you have to ask yourself the question, just going in and kidnapping president and his wife, kill 100 people, and you tell everybody you're going to run the country, but yet you got what they say, almost a fifth or third of your military parked out in front of Venezuela for 4 months, and you didn't invade. So people can think this out. Oh, they took the people. You wouldn't miss. In fact, if an earthquake hit D.C., and those elements were eliminated, the place might run better, because then you wouldn't have those individual entities. The White House and Congress, they're the ones, the Congress people, House of Representatives and in the Senate made a tax bill of $4 trillion tax break before Trump left to the richest Americans and the richest corporations. And then they renewed it. So maybe if you had a massive volcano there, you wouldn't have anybody to give $4 trillion of your tax dollars to the richest people. And maybe those people who survived might have used the $4 trillion to help the masses of people.
That's the taxpayers.
Okay? It's just a concept that we're talking about. So, we're not going to go into the details of who's putting up opposition. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this part of Venezuela. There's enough material we have for questioning. I just wanted to bring that to your attention for you to place for consideration. Just taking out, kidnapping a few people does not collapse a country. The country is intact. The people are demonstrating, and they're not going to let their country be taken. Okay, let's go to Mexico. Now, we all heard about the Monroe Doctrine. And the Monroe Doctrine states, the President of the United States, I think he's the 5th president, whatever it is, he states that all countries, especially from Europe, because the only countries that were in Central and South America, colonizing everybody, colonizing and killing and stealing from Central and South America, it was only Europeans. They were the Portuguese, they were the Spanish primarily, the French got in there a little bit, the British got in there, and Danish. So he was talking, no country can come in to interfere with what's going on in Central America and South America. It's off limits. Who was he talking to? He was talking to the European countries, saying that we in what was the United States of America at that time, we want to be, as Smedley Butler explained to you, the only one to steal from everybody here. That's what it was about. And he made that statement knowing that the only ones who would come at that time, who was over there killing and stealing, was Europeans. He's talking to the Spanish, he's talking to the English, he was talking to the Dutch, he was talking to the French, and those European countries that have colonies in Central, South America, and the Caribbean. You can't come back to interfere. Now, why could he say that? He could say it because you could write down anything you want. It doesn't mean that you could enforce it. And then you ask the question, why is it that the Spanish, the French, the Portuguese, the British, why is it that they didn't come back to the Caribbean around 1840 or 50? They had already been there 100 years stealing and murdering. But why is it that they didn't come back to continue? Because at that time, where were the English, the French? Where was? You ever heard of the Berlin and Brussels Conference of 1885, 84, 86? What was that conference? It was the Europeans, those same Europeans that came in and colonized Central and South America. They were too busy stealing from Africa. I mean, where are you going to steal from? The Caribbean? You go right across the water, you got Africa is much larger and much richer. So they knew, Monroe and the rest of them knew that the European countries weren't coming back. to Central and South America because they now had another era. They were looting Africa. Then the British, the US and France, they were up there bothering with the Chinese. And then the British was there bothering with India and Pakistan. So by that time, they didn't have enough forces or military to bother with the Caribbean because they were someplace else stealing. Plus, when you look at the history of Europe, they were in constant war from 1800 to 1900. You look it up. Europe from 1800. So you hear from Europe from 1800 to 1900. They were at constant war. So how are you going to come back with resources to bother with the Caribbean when the countries that colonized in Central and South America, Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, not Germany, Spain, Portugal, France, the primary ones that already had come into Central and South America, killed off people, took the gold, then now are grouped together, they're raiding Africa, they're raiding Asia. That's one of the reasons that they knew that it didn't mean anything. What Trump and them are saying in the Monroe Doctrine, that we white Americans, white people who just got here 150 years ago, we reserve exclusive right to steal from all of the resources of this vast area. Why? Because Smedley Butler told you had the weapons. That's why they went through the Caribbean. When you look at the history of what United States started their colonialization, all the countries they bothered in the Caribbean, and then all the countries in Central America, then all the countries in South America. Then the United States began to leave and go into taking Hawaii, and then to go on and take the Philippines. So they don't explain to you why the Monroe Doctrine held up. There was nobody's coming back for that. That was, in the street lingo, chump change. You had big areas to conquer. And the second thing is what you're seeing now. If any of those countries had come back, the United States didn't have enough military force to contend them. And when you look and say, what are you talking about? We presented one time, you look at the what you call the independence movement of the colonies. In the United States, what they call War of Independence. The French and the Spanish fought against the English and the Germans. The colonists didn't fight the war. The French fought it with the troops and the ships, the gunpowder and everything. So the Independence War was a war of the English Empire backed by some Hessian Germans against France and Spain. And the colonies were just a throw-in. So there was, the colonists did not get independence from England. It was France and Spain that did it. So how 30 or 40 years later, the United States don't make cannons, they don't have an army. If anybody would have come back, there was nothing they can do. But what do you now have? Who is the largest, with Central and South America, who is Central and South America's biggest trading partner? China. Now, if the Monroe Doctrine was in place, how is it that those countries in Central America and South America, most of the trade that they do outside of Central and South America is with China? So how did that work out? Because while the United States was stealing and fighting wars around, the rest of the world developing, and China has something to offer. So right now, they telling you the Monroe Doctrine, we're going to enforce it. Well, then why is it that most of the trade that the Central and South American countries do are with China? Okay, so it's just bringing you gross concepts. Now we're going to go to Mexico, because I just want to introduce this into you. Mexico in November, December of last year, Mexico went into the UN General Assembly. That's where all the countries are. Not the Security Council where the United States, England, France, they control the Security Council. But Mexico went to the General Assembly and spoke with those countries that had been colonized, the Africans, the Asians, and other countries. And they got together and said, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo from 1846 to 1848, when the United States made the war on Mexico and got access to California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming. So they had a war. The United States won the war and forced the Mexicans to sign this treaty that gave them all this land. So now Mexico went into the General Assembly where almost everybody, the predominant, are people of non-white people. Almost all who have been victim of colonies. And guess what this General Assembly said? We're going to pull together and bring to the attention of the UN to start reevaluating all lands that had been attacked and lost their land unduly. And that hit the United States. So right now, Mexico is working with a large percentage of the non-white, I don't want to use this word, non-white countries, but you know who I'm talking about. And now the United States is faced with the idea that there's a large number of countries that will bring to the UN, we want help Mexico to talk about, we're going to try to set up a set of rules that says that anybody who lost countries, land, by force and stuff, they're going to revisit it. So that's what's showing up. So I'm just presenting a few things on why what has happened in Mexico that might be alarming your president or the white or the people who run this country. There's what they call the Organization of American States. That's a group of the Caribbean, Central, and South America with the United States who dominated. But there's a bloc forming. Colombia, Cuba, Mexico, and Nicaragua. They're forming as a bloc. And like most people who were colonized, they're beginning to understand that when the West decides to destroy you, Iraq, Libya, in a number of other countries, you couldn't resist them. But now the Sahel nations, as an example, when they made the coup and organized together, they understood you have to be able to first defend yourself, second, feed yourself, and develop. So in order to balance off the attack, there's three Sahel nations, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, in order to survive. You know the US and Europe are going to come at you, so they went to help for China, and Russia, and Iran, and North Korea, and Venezuela, and Cuba. That bloc, they need the military assistance to upgrade them so that the United States and France cannot make them come back and destroy them.
That's right.
So that's what's happening in Central and South America. All these countries for the last 150 years have suffered invasion by the United States. Where you think, like Smedley Butler, all that food you were getting out of the Central and South America didn't pay for all the oil? You lived out of Central and South America. So all of those countries in Central and South America have suffered equally under the United States as the Africans have suffered under the Berlin and Brussels Conference. Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, it's the same. So when you make the coup and get rid of the whites, the so-called white people, they're coming. But you get military help. And so when I read these countries in Central, they block them together. Now, going to Mexico, tailing in on the oil. So what's the oil relationship to Venezuela is that United States, for the past 75 to 100 years, was getting a large amount of their oil to run the country, and the military stealing it from Venezuela. That was one of the main, U.S.'s main source of oil. Venezuela, they lost it because of tariffs and everything. So that is cut off. Now you have another source. So Venezuela, oil, 3 areas that United States depended upon to run this country and to run its military. Free oil from Venezuela, that's gone. Now let's see what's happening to the next victim, the Mexicans. Last year, in January, November, December of 2025, I'm reading from material that I put together. Mexico had a decree, 47-2024, which nationalized all of Mexican oil. They said, United States, you can't partner with us anymore. All of the bad relationship that we got you ripping, it's over. We want this oil to be extracted from the Gulf of Mexico, but we don't want you involved in it. So who's involved in it? This was just 3 or 4, 5 weeks ago. Decree 47-2024, nationalization of Mexican oil by the Mexicans. The Gulf of Mexico, there was a large deposit, they said 11.3 billion barrels of oil. Who's helping? China is putting in $18 billion for technical drilling. Russia is putting in $6 to $7 billion for engineering, refining equipment. India, Iran is also collaborating. And when they dig up the oil, where is the oil going? It's going to China. They're going to sell it to India. They're going to sell it to Russia and Asia at a much better price with no connection. The theft coming. Now, you have to look at, I had a schematic, we had it the other day, but I'm going to try to visualize it. Here's the United States, okay? And here's Mexico. Here's the Gulf of Mexico. We're looking this way, north, south, west, and east. That vast amount of oil deposits in the United States is sitting geologically in an area with a vast amount of oil. But most of it is in Canada and most of it is in Mexico. The heavy stuff that you need to run your military, to run the diesel, your trucks and everything. So here is the United States of America, and here's Mexico. Stealing the oil. Smedley Butler told you about it, right? Stealing, all going into the pockets of a handful of white men. Some of y'all like to call them Jews and Christian. They're just who they are. So look at Mexico. Now, that heavy oil that you need for heating, for diesel, for the military, it runs the country. So here's Mexico, right? So Mexico nationalized the oil. And because Asia, China, Iran, India, they cut the connection. That heavy oil was coming from Canada, Mexico, and Venezuela. It's like you having 3 jobs. And they fire you off one. I said, oh, somebody ain't gonna eat regularly anymore. What happens if they fire you from your 2 jobs and you only have one? What situation you gonna be in? I'm not saying that that's the situation, but when you look at the information, where the United States was getting the heavy oil to run its military, and to run it, it was coming from Canada, it's coming from Mexico, and stealing from Venezuela. It's gone from Venezuela. Mexico is cutting them off because the United States is not getting a cut to get part of the 18 million barrels. You know what they're going to do with the 18 million barrels? If you look,
What comes in Mexico?
okay. So normally this is the Gulf of Mexico. Okay? All of the oil is going where? North. The heavy stuff that you need for your military and you need for diesel to run the place. When that oil is pulled out, they're going to build a pipeline. Remember, this is north, south, east, and west. Here's Mexico. The oil, instead of going north, you know where it's going? They're going to build a pipeline across the Gulf of Mexico. In Mexico, there is the Madre, I can't think of the term, the Mother Mountains. In Mexico is wide, and it comes down and it narrows. Okay? It narrows so that from the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific, it's only like 600 miles. Okay? It's like a bridge. That bridge has a railroad with it. So what they're going to do is that oil that's coming out of Mexico that used to go north, Mexico, China, they're going to build an oil pipeline that's going to run, remember, north, south, east, and west. You get the oil here, it used to go north. Now that is going to be, they're going to build a pipeline to the ocean. In other words, you understand the concept. That oil is not going north anymore. It's going east. A pipeline. Well, the United States might try to blow it up like they blew up the Russian. So that pipeline is going to Asia.
U.S. blowed up Russia.
It's going to Asia. So the United States has lost one of the 3 major sources of the heavy oil when they lost Venezuela. They couldn't steal it. Okay. They're going to lose another half. It's going this way. Now, wait till we talk to Canada. I don't mean to be vulgar.
We're going to take that.
But you know.
You mean they're gonna take that?
Okay, you understand what may be happening to the United States. I didn't say that it is. I'm not speculating. I can't. But when you put certain things together, you see what's coming. Whoa. Now, so that pipeline. So in Mexico, when you see Mexico, it's like this, and then it comes down to a narrow, and it twists up. That's only like 600 or 700. It's got a railroad. They're going to build up the railroad and run a pipeline. So that oil will run from Mexico right across the isthmus. The pipeline they're going to run that connects the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific, and the oil is going to be picked up to the Asians. So the Mexicans and Venezuela are shifting to the Asians. So maybe the people are sitting up there and saying, damn, two of our 3 major sources of oil is gone. Okay. I'm going to finish up with Mexico so we can go to Canada. The real problem is with Canada. So when I just wanted to give you something to think about. As far as I'm concerned, there's a good possibility that if I can pick it up, it's out there, you research and you pick it up. They knew this stuff was coming.
Exactly.
What did Mexico, what are they gonna tell Mexico? You should give us, let us continue to steal your oil from them? They said, hell no. Venezuela, Mexico, and Argentina has been offered membership into the BRICS. So that's what's happening in Mexico. That's the main thing that's happening in Mexico. There's a conference, the Mexicans, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru, they're all blocking together. Okay. And also, when they build this pipeline, instead of going to the IMF for 20 or 30% loan, the Chinese are financing for 2%. Okay. I'm going to finish with how important Mexico is to the United States. So that's what's happening with that oil. Mexico. 12 million Mexican troops are being pushed to the U.S. border. They're also saying that the United States and Mexico used to have an integrated military for the border, no more. They said they're blocking the United States from coming in. So let's look at, and Mexico has already signed agreements for Belt and Road with China, for ports, railroads. People want development. And that's why these countries are going to go. Now, let me get into Mexico so we can finish up with Canada. The Mexican trade, stay, I'll stand up. The Mexican trade, Canada does the most trade with the United States. The second largest trading you do is with Mexico. And what does Mexico, it's like we have, Mac is 2 to 3, we're an organization. But I'm trying to think of an analogy. Okay, we won't go that way. What is it that United States connected to Mexico and United States connected to Canada? Much of the industrialization they share. One country make this and they ship it down, so they're interdependent. So this is what Mexico trade. Motor vehicle parts, electronics, telephones, oil, automobile parts, computer equipment, U.S. trade deficit to Mexico. They owe Mexico more than Mexico owed them. U.S. Service surplus. 800 billion trade between 2023 and U.S. Mexican, the money that they send over. Okay, so basically, to shorten it up, there's a lot of things that are made, whether it's automobile parts, automobiles. Most of what you buy in the store, half of it is made in Mexico. In other words, without United States corporations have been shipped a lot out into up to Mexico, so they don't have to pay as much. And so now, United States is heavily dependent upon automobiles and certain manufacturers into Mexico.
So everybody you're kicking out is making your parts.
Okay, so we can get into question and answers so we can get to Canada. They're saying now, as of January 1st, 2016, that if you're an American, if you want to go to Mexico, you're going to have to wait 7 days for a visa. Take 7 days for the visa, and you're gonna be waiting weeks and weeks before they'll notify you. Said they're gonna give the Americans the treatment they give the Mexicans when they wanna come in legally. Okay, so this is basically the point I wanna make, and we can get question and answers with Mexico. Mexico is critical because so much of what is manufactured and sold in the United States, half of it is made in Mexico. So if Mexico were to sever its connections, they would lose tens of billions of dollars that the Mexicans send over, and they would disrupt the supply chain. Okay, so let's go to Canada, so this way we'll be able to get questions and answers.
So we need Mexico for the supply.
Pardon me?
We need Mexico for that supply chain.
Well, to give you an example,
If you had to go to war, or build it.
because Trump said he wants to annex, make Canada 51st state.
I ain't agree with
And then he's insulted them. So they said now the Canadians, who have spent tens of billions, hundreds of billions, that they invest in the Florida's economy because they have bought property, one-to-one. They're pulling out. So Florida is going down. And so what they're saying here is that overnight lending, no, that's Canada. To make your point because you asked, this is Mexico. So the United States and Mexico are interconnected in motor vehicle parts, electronics, petroleum, automobile parts, computer chips, trade deficit. United States owes Mexico more than Mexico. They use the service. The Mexicans use the service. There's almost $1 trillion of business done across border. Millions of Mexicans send plastic product, gems, stones, that the Mexicans, something like $60 billion that Mexico sends over to, from the United States. So basically what they're saying is,
no drugs.
because much of what you manufacture, what you buy in the United States, is half of it is made in Mexico. They broke up the chain, okay?
Any drugs?
Oh, no, it's drugs, brother.
I thought it was China.
Now, what was it, the drug?
Both. No, I thought
No,
most
it's
of
drugs.
that came out of China, not Mexico. Imports. Yeah.
Illegal.
I thought it was coming out of China, not Mexico. Both.
So a large percentage of, they're saying the manufacturers, companies that are in the United States, half of what you produce is in Mexico. And if Mexico cut the supply chains, how you wouldn't get things done. And the same thing happens in Canada. So let's look at Canada.
They get too many Mexicans.
Now,
over here.
remember in your schematic that Canada, if you look at your schematic, you'll see that Canada is now beginning to sell the oil to Asians and to Europeans. What used to come almost exclusively to the United States, it made a pipeline to go west to Asia, and they're doing to Europe for any number of reasons. Because what they do is they realize the world has changed so much that if you cut U.S. loose, what you lose? You don't lose much. Okay, let's do Canada. I'm gonna sit down on this one. Canada. How is Canada connected to the United States? Energy. You get about 20 or 30% of all your oil from Canada. Canada is like Mexico. Half of the factories in Mexico, half the factories in Canada, half the factories in the United States with your automobiles. Half of the factories that make your boats and your trucks and your cars and a lot of half of it is in Canada and half of it is the United States. But Canada, like the United States, like Mexico, said they get the raw end of the deal. So energy, vehicle, 3.6 billion trade a day, 13 trillion trade a year. And remember, these dual factories, probably about 5 to 10 million jobs in the United States are in industrial countries that if Canada cut off the link and Mexico cut the link, the country would collapse. You would have 10 million people out of work. Petroleum, auto parts, delivery trucks, cars, cross-border supply chains. Mark Carney, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, he used to be the former governor of the Bank of Canada. And he used to be the former governor of the Bank of England. And they're they're saying here, the control of investment monies of Canada is invested in the banking system of the United States. And this is how they explain they're invested. They have what they call overnight lending or repo markets. Basically, what they're saying is that banks do business with each other. And some banks, at the end of the day, owe Bank A, might owe X amount of millions of dollars to Bank B. So what the repo market does is they lend money overnight to the bank that's deficient. In other words, you two ladies here and you were doing business with the brother here. And at the end of the day, he's short 3 million or whatever he's short. That's 2 American companies. I'm from Canada. To make money, Canada has excess money and they invest that money into United States banking system. So when y'all finish the business, he's stuck because he's in a deficit. And so what I do as Canadians, I lend the money overnight to give him to pay you and balance the book. Because if I don't lend the money, he's going to run short, and hundreds of thousands and millions of people are going to be laid off because, remember, you are a bank. You are representing, I don't know, $50 billion. You're talking billions and billions of dollars. This money, you lend it to people who need it to run the country. So if he can't pay his people, then people who are working, truckers and stuff, they're going to be laid off.
So these bums over here is stealing, but you're helping me out? What do you get out of it?
The best way I can explain it, the way I read it and what they explain here, is that banks need each other. Okay. If it wasn't, look, if it wasn't for the, okay, we'll get into debt. So he running, your two are running, Ray's running, she's running. Y'all all got banks, banking structures. And the way everything goes out, they have a surplus, you have a deficit, she has a deficit, he has surplus. You have to, at the end of the day, you got to get that extra money to pay, to lend out to the construction companies and this kind of, okay?
By the next day.
They say they call it the repo market overnight. And so Canada, they said, because they say they enter the market and say, I'll lend you and you X amount of dollars that you need to do your business for that day. I'll make up some money. If you don't do it, you can pay hundreds and hundreds of companies. So the point they're trying to make is that by Canada having excess money and investing in the banks in United, not the big ones, but a large number of medium banks, that keeps the economy moving in the United States. Because you don't start paying people, what are you going to do? So this Vice President, this Prime Minister Carney, what he's doing, he's using the leverage. They're saying here, he told Trump, we're not going to be ripped off by you with tariffs. Now here's how we're going to put the pressure on you. If you don't do so-and-so, we're going to withdraw our money, then you're going to have a lot of unemployment, okay? So that's what they're trying to say, is that power that Canada has over.
That's how it's gonna get.
Now, that's the money. This is what happened 3 or 4 days ago. See, Canada and everybody's upset. If you and Canada and the United States are running auto industry, you can't build any cars in the United States and Canada because half of the stuff is built in Canada, half is built here.
Well, the auto plants is in Detroit.
Yeah,
across the street.
right across the street. So that collaboration. Then all of a sudden the United States is saying, you're going to have to pay us more for this and this and this, instead of you breaking the partnership.
That's it.
So Canada, so this is one of the repercussions that they're saying Canada is putting on the United States. They told them, we're going to withdraw the overnight billions that I lent to them if you don't cut the tariff on us. If not, I'm not going to lend. You're going to have millions of people unemployed. That's one leverage they put on them, they say. The other leverage is 25% of the oil, that heavy stuff that the United States needs. Crude. They said 2 or 3 days ago that Canada passed, whatever they passed, that 4 billion barrels a day will be held back from the United States. The heavy stuff. Now, they said they gave US 3 days to change the tariff back, or that 4 billion barrels a day that you're not getting. What is going to happen? It's going to cause, they say, emergency procedures in the refineries. So in essence, when you look at the thing, the United States needs a certain amount of barrels of oil a day. Then they refine it. And then that way you get enough to be able to, okay, this heavy oil comes in. You pour in a lot of the heavy oil comes in, you put it in the factory, and the factory makes the diesels. So you got enough diesels for your military and enough for the trucks. Canada says, if you don't do the tariff, we are now cutting 4 billion barrels. Now, we're not choking you to death, but that 4 billion barrels.
Tightening up the screws just a bit.
Tight. Are you part of this deal here? He knows he's right. That's what he said. They tightened it up. They didn't cut it off. They tightened up. They said, you were going to cut what we send to you by 4 billion barrels a day. So that means they're saying in 2 months, the oil refinery is going to either have to start slowing down or they got to buy it from someplace else. He tell you how to squeeze.
The Midwest states are real. It's cold in Cleveland, Ohio. My sister lives in Cleveland. Detroit, Chicago, Wisconsin, Indiana, those are Midwest states. They make auto parts in every different part of the Midwest states and some part of the
Yeah, but you hear what he said. Auto parts, and then what else he said? It gets cold, right?
Real cold.
Oh, they got a nice one coming here. So they tell them, we're going to cut the amount of heavy stuff. And you're going to have a problem with your unemployment. And like Ray said, it's cold.
It's cold up there, bro.
Russia just cut off Europe. Cut them off. Okay.
That's ice.
So he's telling you, Ray's telling you, 3 things they squeeze in the U.S. That heavy oil, you're going to have a crisis in producing heavy oil, and you're going to have big problems running your diesel and big problems in the military, and it's going to get cold.
608 for a half a tank of oil, baby.
Okay? Canada, 4 billion barrels, Midwest. 22% of oil imports to United States. So they cut United States by almost 25%. Like he said, to put the squeeze. in order for Canada to sell oil in the United States, they say the companies just can't sell oil. They got a special agreement with the government to see if the United States is compliant. Okay? That's the squeeze. We almost finished.
Look like we're done.
They got 90 days limit. They squeeze them just enough that if in 3 months you don't do something, they didn't tell them how much more they're gonna cut it. But just what he said. If you cut that oil, but Ray, what they also did was directly to the auto parts, they said. They said, you're not going to rip us with the parts, because if you don't take the tariff, you know half of the stuff that go in the car we make. Them plants going to shut down. You ain't going to have no cars selling no cars.
Transportation.
That's why the Don in the New York Times, in the financial barons, the Dons, they said the Don is easing up on the tariffs.
He's destroying the country. You know why? Because Mexico, Canada, and Venezuela don't need United States for a damn thing. Canada can sell all that oil they give the United States. The Europeans are begging for it. If they shut down the United States, the Chinese, the Indians, the Chinese, the South Korean, the Japanese say, I'll take all the oil you want, and the Europeans. Remember, the United States blew up the pipeline. So let's say Europe was getting the gas for $1 a cup. When they cut it off, they now have to buy a gallon of gas from other people, not for $1 a cup from Russia, $5. So the Europeans and the Asians will, if Canada cut all the oil, they can sell to China, India. They said, I'll take everything. Europe saying, I'll take everything. If they shut the United States, if they cut that off, the United States would be in crisis. The United States would have to invade them. The invasion ain't gonna do any good because they don't run anything. That's how serious it is. Canada.
This is very good.
It's time.
Let him talk. We're gonna do a question and answer. We're gonna do a question and answer.
Gas bill is going up.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, relax. We're gonna do a question and answer.
It's bad enough to get United. Remember, we started. United States of America has 700 military bases around the world. They need oil. They usually make connection with the local people. If Canada said, we're only going to cut 25% and give you 3 months, and meanwhile, you know what they say? All that oil that used to come to the United States is building up in the storage houses. And guess what? If you in 3 months, if you don't have it, China's ship, Japanese ship, South Korean, the Asian, and the Europeans. Canada, if it didn't sell one more drop of oil, they already got 15 European countries that will take every drop of oil, and you got 3 Asian countries. Now, remember, Arthur Lewis got this out of the paper. Remember, just like you can get
a half a tank of oil in Brooklyn right now is $608. So we don't know. From what little we can find here, we know that we know the little guy knows that there's a crisis coming in Mexico for the heavy stuff. That heavy stuff out of Mexico, that takes care of the southern part of the United States. That heavy oil coming out of Canada takes care of the northern part. In Venezuela, put the icing on the cake so now the United States can run all these warships, all these planes. Remember what's at stake. Well, the United States doesn't have much shipping because they got rid of shipping, but it's the military. You don't make the diesel, you're not going to move trucks. You're not going to move buses. So,
Ships.
as Richard Pryor would say, somebody got somebody by what?
They got to truck them hamburgers in for the soldiers to eat.
Okay? So I'm just bringing to your attention one of the problems that United States may have, because none of us have any information. All we did was look through and say, well, we now know what Mexico's doing. We now know what Canada was doing, and we now know what Venezuela, somebody may be in a crisis. As we finishing down. So,
We running the show, baby. Shut up.
the United States in
The Don.
They do it to run their mouth.
Okay, so,
This ain't gonna finish pretty.
They all.
okay, so what they've done is they cut United States oil by 22%, 3 months to decide whether or not you're gonna redo it. Now, in the 3 months, Ray, all of the oil that's been stored up in the storage place,
Stockpile.
and all that stockpile,
It's gone.
if it reaches, they said they'll hold it. They will hold it for the United States for 90 days. Now, what happens after 90 days in the oil, and they can't store more oil? And you got the Asian, the Europeans, and you Canada, you got what? 15 billion? 20 billion? All we gotta do is turn the spigot. What the hell are we worried about these
January,
people?
February, and March.
Talk to
He
your boy.
said
Talk
that
to-
cold weather, they timed it for the cold weather. Russia cut off the Europeans, the Canadians cut off. And then they said, you think you're gonna occupy Canada and take Canada? We'll shut you down, you wouldn't know which way was up.
My house is cold now.
They're not taking their cousin's Canada, brother. That
And
ain't happening.
I'm just telling you what these people, I pick up here, it's like Dr. Ben said, he didn't make Egypt, but his job was to make sure we saw it. That's basically what he said he did, was to make sure that we know that Africa and Egypt was us.
Talk to your boy.
Federal approval to send oil to U.S. Midwest refining. So Ray, just tell us again about the impact on the temperature in the Midwest and on the oil.
Cold.
Look, it's cold here for some of New York.
Okay.
Some of the
Now,
landlords, some
so we got the banking. So the Canadians.
New York ain't like the Midwest.
Yeah.
Boat
Like
riding,
the
them will tell you. When we
yeah.
went to boat riding, them will tell you it's cold over there.
Yeah.
Motor
Where
City,
they hard is cold.
Motor City is cold.
Okay, so let's see, we wind down okay, now, they got 90-day limit to reduce the refining output. Number 10, buy more, either the United States gonna have to buy more expensive oil, whoever they're gonna get it from, no, use the army to get it. Canada diverts oil to China, South Korea, and Japan. West Canada storage of oil, they letting the oil build up. And Canadians service without oil purchase. So in other words, you can't just ship oil to the U.S. You got to get government approval. As they said, they squeeze refining disruptions, political fallout, and the price. That's what they tell the United States. You're going to have to shut down the refining, or you're going to have to buy much more expensive oil, and the people in the United States ain't going to stand for it. And we winding down number 2, Canada 1, 2. Okay, the last, Asia, Korea, okay, the last thing the Canadians have decided to do. Now, you know the Arctic, right? The way they divide the world, you look at the Arctic, it's melting.
Yeah, the ice cap.
And the Arctic is ground just with a lot of ice on it. So whatever the formation of the earth geologically, it was all over. You have gold, oil, everything you got in Africa, everything is in the Arctic. Just a bunch of ice on it.
Correct.
But it's melted. Now when you look at the countries that border the Arctic, you have Canada, you have Greenland,
that's right.
you have some of the European countries, Canada, Greenland, some of the European countries, right? Now, United States has Alaska, but United States, let me put it this way. They say that Russia has 92 state-of-the-art ice, the ships that break the ice,
Icebreaker.
icebreakers. about 96 state-of-art nuclear. You know how many U.S. got?
1.
2, both broken. The United States, all of the wealth that's been poured into the United States goes to the top people. And the United States hasn't been invested in anything. They stealing, right? So now what the United States wants to do, now that Canada is bordering the Arctic, the Americans are coming to Canadians, the way they say it here, and saying, he's an American, I'm a Canadian. They're both white, they took the land, but let's go on. He's now coming, he's Canada. I'm now coming to the Canadian and say, look, there's vast wealth in the Caribbean, in the Arctic. But United States has no capacity to get to it. They say Russia they got cities. They got small atomic ships that provide electricity. So they got the full military. They got the icebreakers. They're ready to exploit. They can now get the oil. They're getting the oil. They're digging for this and digging for that. Now, if that part of the earth is like other parts of the earth, it has rare earth, it has gold, it has oil, it's fabulously rich.
Under the ice.
Yeah, but the ice is melting. So just think of New York City with 15 stories of ice.
Oh man.
All parts of the earth have everything basically.
Right.
So now that there's X number of oil, gold, and minerals, Russia is exploiting them because they're right there and they've been investing in the icebreakers and the nuclear plant. United States, white people have been too busy stealing everything, sticking it in their pocket, buy yachts and stuff. They have nothing here. So now the white American businesses, they're coming to Canada and say, let you, Canada, partner with me, white America, so that we could both exploit the vast wealth of Canada. You understand? You got it. Huh?
They're ganging up on them.
Say what again?
They're ganging up on Canada.
No, they come to Canada.
They're talking business.
We have a proposal. I have a proposal. I'm U.S. I have a proposal with Canada. He's my brother. I've only been stealing
They're
from.
both brothers now.
Yeah, they're brothers, but
They're cousins.
they're cousins, but they know the cousin. This kind of cousin ain't too good. So now they're saying what United States wants to do is say to Canada, when you now, or Canada is now beginning to understand that they want to exploit the wealth that's in the Arctic. Guess what else is in the Arctic? Greenland. Greenland don't belong to white people. They killed off the indigenous people, the Eskimos, to get it. Okay? So now you have this vast country area called Greenland under the Dutch. No, Denmark. Then you have this other vast piece of land that borders the Arctic you call Canada. Now you got Russia has about half of the Arctic. Okay? Russia has already invested to get the oil and the minerals out of the Arctic because for years they have built small cities. And you know, if you can get a small nuclear reactor, just like these small nuclear reactors can run a submarine or ship for 10 years, so they have these small nuclear reactors that can provide energy for 15 years. So you can be up in the Arctic and you use the small nuclear reactors as, you know, like you can buy a heater out of the store.
Generator.
A small nuclear, so Russia is already there. They got cities, they got airports. They're already mining the gold, they're mining the raw earth. Now the United States wants to get into it. They have a border in Canada. but they don't have anything developed. They were too busy stealing. So they figure they're gonna come. I'm America, U.S. America. My cousin, Ray Ray. Come on, Ray Ray, you know, we boys. You now, Ray Ray, Canada, wants to now begin to exploit the vast wealth that's there. But Canada has to have, they don't have the technology yet. They don't have the backing. So who is Canada going to?
China.
Wait now. Russia is there. China does not have a border with the Arctic. So China is not technically in the Arctic. But the Russians and the Chinese. Russians tell China, look,
Brits.
you help us develop it and you get a what?
Join us.
Piece of the land.
You understand? You understand what he said? I am Russia. Russia is already way ahead. China says, I'm putting in on this one. You know how you put your money together to do something? So China has been working with Russia. I want part of this, so Russia said, okay, I'll let you do it. I'll let you be part of it. Russia gave the same offer to the white Americans. In other words, in Russia, they have on the western part of Russia at Vladivostok. That's the part of Russia that connects to Europe.
I never understood.
Okay? Here's Russia. See big Russia? On the eastern part of Russia, Russia is, oh man, it's from here to California, it's almost 3 times. The white Russians, they really got a big chunk. So if this is east, we're looking at Russia. United States is here, Europe is here, Russia runs from here to here. Every year in Vladivostok, what you call in Moscow, I can't think of it, St. Petersburg. Every year the Russians will host a big conference of all countries who want to come in and invest with Russia. 4 or 5 years ago, only ones who were there were white Europeans. You know who's the only one now talking with Russia to get in? All people of color. United States and them are gone. I've never been there. I've seen the pictures. And they say, who's there? The Arabs are there. The Africans are there. All the Europeans and Americans, they were too busy trying to steal from Russia. Remember when Yeltsin and them were there? Russia wanted to be part of NATO, part of Western. They wouldn't do it because they thought they could continue to steal, but they wouldn't. So at Vladivostok, St. Petersburg, if we could go, you see the picture, there are thousands of businessmen, military in Russia. If you look at Russia, say, the only one got more natural resources is Africa. Russia is self-independent. So the white Europeans who were trying to take over Russia, they out. And now who's there? The Africans, the Asians, the Africans are primarily there. They're going to work with them. Now you go to the west, Vladivostok. The east, for Russia is opposite. When you go to California, that's what? West, right? Okay, no, let me don't do that. So you understand with Russia, they're a big area. Here's Western Europe. Russia is the capital here, and all the way over in Asia is the city of Vladivostok. So most of the Asians are there. Russia said, come and let's work this together. So the Asians are getting the opportunity with the vast wealth. So what China is doing is China is saying, I'm not an Arctic, but you need some help. China's putting up. So China's getting them a cut. Russia has been developing while United States white people, pink people, with all of the wealth that they put in, all the wealth they made from moving to China, they got it in yachts and they got it in all these fancy houses. They got no industry. So United States, even though Canada has part of the Arctic. Here's the Arctic, the north. Russia's from here to here. Russia, from here to here, is Europe, Canada, and the United States of America. But the United States of America doesn't have any means to exploit. They got no
Industry.
ice. To get in the Arctic, you gotta have icebreakers. They don't have it. To get into the Arctic, you have to have icebreakers, and you have to have a source of energy. Russia has already provided the source of energy to have cities there in the industry. Why? They made these small nuclear reactors. You know the big ones you see on TV?
Yeah.
They make small ones. They got cities that are run by these nuclear reactors. That's where they get the energy from.
They will last a long time.
So Russia got cities all along the Atlantic, and how do they function? For heat and for industry they build. Big yacht, big fat. They never came out of the culture of having anything. So Russia, now China asked for a piece of the action. So if you go to Vladivostok, the white Russians who run Russia, they're willing to share with China. Japan is invested. China's and everybody in Asia is invested because they know.
India.
They're all here. They all got one piece. They're all at Vladivostok. So they're going to get a piece of the action. Now, United States wants to get in, but because they haven't been making icebreakers and small nuclear reactors, they can use Canada, another Canada, what's that? Alaska. But they don't have any means to exploit it. No icebreakers, nothing. So who do United States go to get a piece of the action?
Canada.
They can't go to Russia because they already effed up.
You gotta take Canada.
So now there's this vast source of energy and stuff. Russia is leading. They let China come in. They're doing the Asians are hooking up, just like the Africans. And now China, United States runs to Mexico. Said, man, you know, we partners. Now Mexico is in the process of cutting the United States out of its oil. So let's see what United States is begging Canada as partnership. Please let me be a partner to you. Canada said, you tell me you're going to annex our state, invade Canada, do what you did to Venezuela. Been stealing our oil for nothing. Make a trade deal to crash, to make me impoverished to you. So the Prime Minister of Canada said, let's show him a little bit. They withdraw that money, that repo money, and he has trouble paying. Now that, what's his name, Canada wants to exploit the Arctic, who are they going to for technology to help them?
Russia.
Huh?
Putin.
Now, they also are going to their European cousins. So they're moving a lot of business that they used to do with United States in aeronautics and stuff like that. So they're dealing with the Europeans and they're dealing with Russia. If you want to know how to do it, Russia will teach you how to set up to make the icebreakers. If you want a portable nuclear reactor to run your city, in other words, Russia has been preparing. The United States is out of the ball game because you threaten Canada. Everybody sees you're a parasite. And their cousins, they don't want a damn thing to do with the United States. And so this is, as we end, this is what they're saying, Canada's reply to United States' request to be a partner. And they're saying a lot of the technology and manufacturing that Canadians going to need to build their infrastructure around the Arctic? They're going to Europe and Russia. They told the United States, go to hell. This is what they're saying here. I didn't say it. Now we're in here, this is what they're saying. Canada, national, now they're in the process of developing the infrastructure for the Arctic, right? You need icebreakers, you need small nuclear plants for your electricity, you need all kind of drilling technology. United States ain't did anything. They're too busy stealing and calling people niggers and chinks. It's like the president, one of the business people said, China's been there 5,000 years. They're going to be there another 5,000 years. Here you people from Europe just pop out there with no culture of what to do anything. That's the difference. You're murdering, killing, that's all they've been doing. But let's go on what Canada said and what Ray's telling you about, that cold weather, the manufacturing. Now, you have to build up a structure, right? Just like you build up your house, you got to put electricity system in. This is what they're saying. Canada said national. So the Americans said, come on, we buddies now. I got technology and we can do this and this. Figuring that their U.S. companies are going to make all that money on industrializing the Arctic. Canada said they want to be partners now. Canada's national command, no U.S. help. So whatever structure we're putting in Canada to exploit the thing, we don't want your help. We're not giving you an in. A national command, the national command that's going to run it, no U.S. help. Defense network, no joint. They said we don't want any damn thing to do with you. We used to have a unified, what you call when you cover your country, the radar stuff. They cut that. They used to buy their jet planes from U.S., they send it to Europe. So now the United States is begging, can we be friends? Can we just get along?
Can we play?
So Canada says, no, we're not going to hook up with you on any level of the development of the Arctic. Number two, low Earth, this is what they're saying you need to do it. Low Earth orbit surveillance satellites. Canada, no NATO, no US. They don't want any damn part of NATO. They don't want any part of US.
When did they tell them this?
I'm only picking this up in some of the research as they're talking about how Canada has to develop the Arctic. And they're telling you what they need. First of all, they're going to set up a command. Only Canadians, no Europeans, no Americans. So they cut the United States out of the ability to be part of the Russia let China in. India, they let different countries come in and get a piece of the action. Now the United States want a piece of the action with Canadians, so we don't want any part of you. Then now they say you need a low Earth orbit surveillance satellites. Canada, they don't want NATO, they don't want the US. They want to do it 100%. They don't want any part of the United States or the other Europeans. Low Earth orbit surveillance satellites. No to United States. So who's going to get that technology and go get a cut of with the satellites and stuff? Russia? China, the people who have the technology. Who do you think they're going to go with AI? China? Okay, so they're telling the United States, we don't want you to be buddies with us. C. Fleet. Large range armed drones. Now they want to put in the drones to protect. They're not coming to the United States for it. The drones that surveillance. Earth, European firms, senior sensor technology, domestic data, processing, unmanned. So all the satellites All that technology that has to be put in place, Russia is getting it, China is getting it, and Europeans getting it. Billions and tens of billions of dollars that United States isn't getting. They're cutting them all out. Cut the war oil. A separate internet for the Arctic Canal. Arctic. They don't want no part, no internet with the United States. In other words, they're decoupling completely with the United States. And it's causing the United States to lose hundreds of billions of dollars in potential profit, and they don't trust them. Separate internet for Arctic. We don't want to hook up with the internet, none of your technology, nothing. Surveillance, none of that. Military, Navy, no Five Eyes. They say, they used to, and we're finishing up, they used to have what they call the Five Eyes. Australia, New Zealand, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States, and UK. The five cousins, they all come from UK, England. They used to share, information. They say Canadians aren't sharing anything with anybody. That's theirs. So United States partner with you and then take it over. It's like the Africans who did most of the discoveries and most of the inventions that made this industrial country called America, and they never got credit for it. So the Canadians understand their cousins. Okay? Military, Navy, no Five Eyes. They said whatever technology we get, we hold it as our own. We're not going to share anymore. So they're cutting off the United States, UK, England, and France from all of the technology in any kind of nature. Remember, a lot of Canadians are French.
Right.
The defense contractors lost Canada's technology, American military industrial base. So now if what I picked up, you can pick it up because I'm looking for the connection. No smarter than anybody else, but you look at the global picture and you understand, you look back on it. So they're not going to talk about this. So United States is facing an energy crisis. They're going to lose a large percentage of that heavy oil. They're going to lose the Mexican, and they already lost. So it's like you having 3 jobs, and you lost all 3. That's essentially what United States had. Unlimited supply of the heavy stuff that you need for military and diesel. Stealing out of Mexico, they cut it. Stealing out of Canada, they cut it. Stealing out of Venezuela, they cut it. And now, the Canadians said we're not going to allow we're cutting our connection with the other white people. Okay, so we have ended.
They're cutting the cancer, I get something.
Whatever you call it. So as I said, we're discussing information that's on the internet, that's available. It's no kind of secret. It's just what you're looking for, you understand, and you make the connection. So I just wanted to present that part of it, that is the United States, if what we think we understand, then if we can find out and you put 2 and 2 together because you are looking for it, they're in the crisis. Are they? No, they are now saying, is the United States in the crisis? Now, one last thing about oil. There are 2 types of, basic types of oil. Oil is just an organic liquid. And some of it is like water. That's for car gasoline. And some of them are heavier. The molecular structure for this oil would be 8 chains, V8, V8.
The compounds.
Yeah, 8 carbon connection give you a certain light chain of oil that you can put in cars. But that light chain, when the combustion break it down, there's not enough energy coming out of an 8-sided chain. to power a truck or a bus. So you need much more energy than you can get out of octane, 8 carbons. You get a certain amount of energy. Poof, it can push a car. But when you get that heavy bus or that tank or the jet that push that massive amount, you can't use, there's not enough energy in the combustion of that. So that's where the diesel comes in. Diesel is all of the heavy chain, the 16 chain carbon, the 18 chain.
Not that 93 octane they sell that.
Okay? So United States, they say, is the largest oil producer, and they produce and sell more oil than any other country. So if you look at all the countries, say who's selling the most oil? The United States of America.
And produce less, right?
Say it again?
They sell those and produce less, right? They have all reserves, right?
Okay, here's the difference, why we present it this way. United States was dependent on oil from Russia, from China, these three, Venezuela, Canada, Venezuela, Canada, Mexico. They were stealing it, buying it from Mexico dirt cheap, stealing it from Mexico, and buying it from dirt cheap. They also got heavy oil from Saudi Arabia. They also got some from Russia. But geopolitical, you can't count on some of that, right? So United States did what they call fracking. You ever heard of fracking? Yeah. All fracking means is that when you dig for the oil, okay, let's say you dig for the oil and you hit a vein that's almost pure V8, all of the oil there is 8 carbons. It's like drinking a nice smoothie. And then the heavy stuff you need to run your country is that stuff is so heavy, it's they pave the ground and they burn it in your furnace, right?
It's raw, it's more raw.
Because this is what I understand. Let me make the picture. The oil that United States is getting out of United States, in Pennsylvania, a lot of it in Texas and California. That geological seems to be, most of it is light. It's the light stuff. So the heavy stuff that you need for your diesel in the military primarily was coming out of Canada, Mexico, and Venezuela. So based upon what we just saying, if what we are saying is correct, that a significant amount of Mexican oil is going to be shifted away.
Quick Q&A.
Okay. And a certain amount of heavy oil that used to come from Canada, they're going to be shifted away. And then you got Canada, Mexico, and Venezuela. That's a major loss of the heavy stuff. So what they're doing now is fracking means what they do, instead of finding oil, they're shooting under pressure. Water and chemicals down there to break the ground. So there's still oil there, a lot of oil, but it's mixed in rocks and stuff. So what they call, from what I understand, fracking, is they shoot the liquid and they shoot the heat and they crack up. So you get a lot of oil,
And that's the quality.
but it's not smooth oil. It's got what? Minute pebbles in it. So it's almost, let the sister go.
I was gonna ask, would that also cause earthquakes and so forth?
Oh yeah, definitely. If you take the oil off, and that oil was keeping the ground and make earthquakes. But the reason that the United States is the leading seller of oil is because most of the oil that the United States is drilling for, that makes them number one, is the shale oil. So you now got oil with minute particles. Don't work so good. Okay? That's number one. And number two, they say that the shale oil that the United States is digging for, you know, you gotta have the drill, you gotta have the chemical, you have to have the pressure, then you have to clean up behind you. They say the only way that the United States is producing that high quantity, it's much more expensive to do that. And in order for the people in the United States who are drilling to get the oil, they're using a large percentage using the shale. They said it's much more expensive, that in order to continue to get it, the oil has to sell for, let's say, $100 a barrel, right? Most of the oil isn't selling for $100 a barrel. So if the oil drops below, let's say, 70, if you're only getting $70 or whatever it is a barrel, then they're losing money. Right. So that they say that shale oil that the United States is producing in quantity is going to begin to reduce because they're running out of area and they can't afford to. So the United States may have two dilemmas. Running for the shale that's too expensive and much of it can't be used, and the heavy stuff within the borders of the United States, so they say. The heavy stuff is not here. The heavy oil that the southern part of the United States comes primarily from Venezuela and comes from Mexico.
Q&A.
I am. The other heavy is coming from the three. So you may have two major problems. One is the reduction of the heavy stuff from Mexico, Canada, and Venezuela, and the fact that they selling the shale oil to Europe. Europeans say, I don't want it, because it got cracked, got spam. It's a mess. So Ray say we're going to question and answer. So we're trying to put together a key component is oil. Now let's say one last thing. For those people who think by kidnapping Maduro and his wife, the country doesn't stop running.
They posting videos, they in the streets, like they telling all the citizens armed. You don't know them, get them out of here.
You got a problem. The United States just stopped a oil ship with U.S. Now I picked up an article. I don't know if it's real because you don't know about this AI. They say United States seized 12 U.S. oil ships. No, I'm just saying, that's what they put out. So you gotta watch this, because you don't know the response that China and Russia and the rest of them, they got something, whatever it is, you just keep following it. Okay, he says question and answer.
Okay, we gotta get out of here, it's 9:45. Anybody from the Zoom? First of all, give Dr. Lewis a great big hand. Yeah. This is, all right, the first question.
Question.
Hold up. The first question for Doc, and he's gonna take 3 minutes to answer it, not 23, but 3 minutes. From the Zoom audience, give Doc the first question. Go ahead.
Well, quick question. I need some clarification. This whole military operation that the U.S. did was to take and secure oil, but you're saying that they're not able to? So if you could just clarify, because I'm awfully confused.
I cannot clarify it. And we made a point. Venezuela is the size of California, twice. 3 times bigger than Texas. It's a vast country. They say there are 30 million people in the population. It's a mountainous, tropical country. They're saying that Venezuela has 150,000 men in their military. They have another 2 million people who are in the militia, well armed, and got another 4 million to back them.
Uh-oh.
That's what they say.
More than
Now,
the
they've
US.
already been equipped with weapons. Now, the question, what I'm going to answer the question to you is the best way. United States since August, September, October, November, December, they have these number of ships, warships, sitting there for 5 months with 20,000 troops. Why haven't they invaded and taken the country? That's what I'm trying to say, is I'm giving you these numbers. Your Trump can say whatever he wants.
That's right. 20,000 versus a million, I mean.
The country is unified.
Millions.
The people are behind him. The military didn't defect. Most of the world is criticizing the United States. They just say what they got to say, and I'm not giving you any answer. Why isn't the United States had a full-scale invasion to take the country? You can't take a country that's got almost 300,000 well-armed men and women with 10, 15 million. I mean, with 20,000 soldiers. That's why they've been there 4 months just sitting there. That's the best I can tell you. Yes?
But wasn't this about regime change then?
What have we been talking about? What have we been talking about the last 2 hours? What is it about?
Let him make a statement.
What is it about? Hello? Can you hear me? What we were saying in the lecture, we are putting up a hypothesis. Is it because the United States is losing the heavy oil from Venezuela? It's lost it. That is going to lose it from Mexico, and it's going to lose it from Canada. The main source of the heavy oil that the United States needs to run the country in the military. If they're going to lose a large percentage of that heavy oil that you cannot be without, or you can't run a country or military, is that the reason why they're attempting to bother with Venezuela? Anybody can ask anybody. Could 20,000 people, soldiers, beat what? 300,000 men? They're 50 or 100 to 1. That's the best we can answer.
Okay. Any question from the floor?
And yeah, I'm gonna ask her now. I'm gonna pretty much segue on to her question about regime change. And it seemed like there's a lot of propaganda. It was people, I don't know where they got the information from a segment of people saying they're glad that America is here, and how was he even taken over from his wife was removed from the.
This is propaganda.
Exactly.
How are you, again, all we can do is go by what they say. You have an army, 200, 300,000 men and women under arms. United States has what, 10,000 men? Can 10,000 men, what are they going to do against 300,000 that got equal weapons? I'm not the one to tell you yes or no. You logically figure it out. Why didn't they stay? How you going to run the country? Then he tells the people, oh, we're going to run the country. Right. Insanity. And that the vice president agrees. If you're sitting there with a country bigger than Canada and some of the richest country, and you got 50 times more guns than the United States. If what they're saying is true, they got all of these weapons and everything. Why didn't the United States run it?
Stay there.
This is propaganda. This is propaganda. Right. That the United States is going. The United States can't even run this country.
They were successful taking.
I'm listening.
They were successful taking the president and his wife out.
That
was just a separate. Some people say it's smoking. But that was just whatever. They have been clever. But now let's fulfill the whole mission.
Just look at it this way.
I'm in your house at 2 o'clock in the morning. I drug you and I take you out. Come on.
No. When the Warren squad come to your house, they come 2 o'clock in the morning.
All right. And now I take out 100 of your Cuban soldiers. So now all of Cuba looking at you.
But it must have been
Cuban doctors came during COVID.
But it must have been some turncoats anyhow.
Well, yeah, you speculate the way you want. Look, there may have been some people who were willing to sell out, they got payment. United States had CIA in there for years and years, and they work. So you went in, you knock out some of the electricity, and it's dark. You come in with night goggles, blasting, plus the people who may have sold you out, you take the president away. What does 300 million people, what does 30 million people do? Put their guns down and say, come in, America.
You're right.
What do you want?
Okay, Zoom audience.
And they had protests all
question.
over America on behalf of
Okay,
Venezuela.
world.
The world, just like George Floyd.
One last question for Dr.
Thank you
Lewis.
so much for your lecture. This is Dr. Ashley. I'm first time visiting here. I really appreciate your lecture, and I heard quite a bit what you were saying. I do have one question at this very moment, and there's another one that I'm formulating. I just want to make sure I convey and articulate as best I can. The propaganda piece, when I was looking at some of what, they show us on streaming platforms, et cetera, and I get it, I'm in media, and that's my thing. I'm a media pedagogy educator, so I know about the subliminal messages and the fact that we're not even getting all the truth as it is, propaganda, as you say, stereotypical. They're giving the impression that all of the people in Venezuela, they didn't want him in presidency. They didn't want him. They wanted him out. They didn't want him, and they're happy that he's been arrested. The way that they're celebrating over there, or at least that's what the imagination is, the propaganda is promoting, as though they're happy that he's gone. Now, I hear what you're saying, so I'm asking, is that also part of the propaganda that you're talking about?
The answer to the question is, what people the black people, these uneducated, these ignorant people that we brought from Africa didn't do a damn thing to didn't do anything to run the country of the United States. As Donald Trump said, his people, the Europeans built this country. Now you take it from there. You work that in your mind. Only Europeans built the country. Africans have nothing to do with building the country. It's a farce for you to even mention that. You didn't know that most of the Europeans who immigrated from the United States from 1860 to 1950 were mainly from the western part of Europe. What were they leaving? Endless wars, famine, and disease. They came with a suitcase and they built America. They built all of what's here. That's take that for it. You figure it out.
Superlines.
Okay.
I was gonna add.
Question.
Go ahead.
I was gonna add.
Okay, my other question is, it's also being said that from the tariffs, the proposed tariffs, or those tariffs that were initiated here or abroad, if you will, that there was trillions of dollars that the United States, or that this country actually made from those tariffs, trillions and trillions of dollars. If that is true, do you think that's also propaganda? I'm just asking.
No, okay, if you listen to Trump, the Europeans, the lady came here and said, we're willing as Europeans to give up, we're going to put $700 billion, almost $1 trillion Europeans going to do to bring to America. The Japanese, $500 billion. So Trump is telling you that the Japanese, the Koreans, the Europeans, they all are shipping hundreds of billions of dollars to industrialize America. then I would ask Trump or anybody else, why is it that China has 4 times the population and created 12 million jobs last year? The United States has 1/4 the population and they're laying off millions. So why would the Japanese, I didn't say it wasn't true, why would the Japanese or the Europeans degrade their country to build up the United States? Why does the United States have to be built up? They had the largest industrial base after World War II. They made up 70% of the manufactured goods up to about 1970. Tell the American people that that industrial base, that United States was supreme, created mainly by the African here. What happened to it? They sent it all to Europe. They sent it all to China. So tell the American people, the white man who run the bank, the president and Congress, they all took the industrial base in the United States, which was this one that was standing, the largest after World War II, shipped it to China to pauperize the American people. And that's what's the basic foundation of most of the poverty and the job situation, because a white businessman shipped it all the way out. Now why are you asking Japan, why are you asking everybody to send money to build back America? Why did the white man ship the damn thing out from the first place?
Offseas.
Why?
Offshore.
That's why
The industrial base of the United States were built by the Africans. The mass amount of Europeans didn't get here between 1860 to 1920. They came with the damn suitcase and nothing else. So who is the originator of all this prosperity and all of these inventions? The Europeans? The millions of them who came over here in rags? In their suitcases with all of these inventions? You figure it out. I'm just asking the question.
Get the credit.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, give Dr. Lewis a great big hand.
Yo!
Thank you, Dr.
It's a blowout.
Yes.
No matter what happens,
And I do know the answers. And just also, you had mentioned earlier, and I think it was Ray, about certain movies, the American this and that. We were just looking at over the holidays, my son and I, we were looking at gangster movies. And it's interesting that you brought that up about the American gangsters or whatever it was that you said, because I got to see, because they got to tell you what they're doing. And they've been telling us through media for a very, very, very long time, from the very conception of when television and radio was even introduced. One other thing I wanted to say is I'm glad that these lectures are taking place every week, I think, or every 2 weeks, or I don't know how often, but I'm looking forward to the next one. And again, Happy New Year to everyone that's in this room. And thank you for continuing to elevate and bring more knowledge and information to those of us who may be slacking or what have you, but at the same time we are being empowered with information that we don't want to just sit on, but we want to utilize and apply and do whatever we can. So whatever I can do for this platform, and me and Ray will talk later, but again, I just want to say thank you very much again for your commitment, for your service, and just for really helping all of us to understand what's going on here in our midst. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much. And once again,
Bring your friends.
you do your own research, you piece together, and do your own research on what's going on. And whatever's going on in America, and whatever America is doing, because they hired the president. Trump might be doing this, but America gives the orders. So do your information, do your research. If you disagree,
yes, sir.
If you disagree, yes, Dr. Lewis is not going anywhere. This might be a 14-part series, and you could always come down and speak to him personally if you're in the 5 boroughs. If not, You have to do it on Zoom. Thank you very much. Do your research.
Friends.
And the video will be on YouTube under BK Mackey's History Club tomorrow. Thank you very much, and give yourself a great big hand. You can have a small conversation, but the camera will be now cut off. So whatever it is what it is and what it is. That's what history is about, and that's what information is about. So give Dr. Lewis a great big hand. Give yourself a great big hand. And the people coming out, so you can conversate and say what you want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis.